1930s and trying to, how do we be like they were, because it was successful for them, maybe it will be successful for us, in that adopting the position of revolutionary, I think is antithetical to my core, which is essentially traditional. And I'm traditional, and the older I get, the more the worse it gets. And I feel like my idea of beauty, and I wanted to touch on, James, what you said, that the core problem, the thing that stirs up the antibodies most in the body and the being of modernism is beauty. And I would have to qualify that. I think it's beauty, but traditional beauty. Because there's many ways of thinking about beauty, but it's the traditionalness of that pursuit of beauty. And I'm not just saying that everyone in this room has to subscribe to that, but that's the thing I feel, and that's why I feel there's no going back, there's no rejoining.
Well, I think what you're speaking of, you've confronted these challenges and you don't want to compromise, and I think you're right about that. And I've seen realists who do make those compromises. They try to become pop artists, for example, and like someone like John Curran might be considered one of those artists. I think many of the contemporary Chinese artists who trained in the Soviet style are pumping out pop art, or nouveau pop art. So they made that compromise, but they produced.
Maybe it might not have been a compromise for them.
Maybe
I think Curran started out as a modernist, and he was looking for an angle as a modernist. So he wasn't selling out his traditional roots. He was just fishing for something interesting to provide to the Yale scene.
So there's a danger, as you say, to compromise. And so to get more recognition, how do you go about it? I think what you're doing, as you know, I think is very exciting, because you're creating an alternative society.
That's the only way to go for the whole thing. That's what the Core Society seems like it's been doing for started.
Well, I agree with you totally on the ideas that what you fight against, you crusade against, sometimes you become, revolutionaries become exactly what they fought against. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I have the opportunity at our museum to see the full spectrum range of artists, and obviously I'm not my personal aesthetic is not postmodernist, not deconstructive art, and so, but I am totally opposed to my core being to the philosophy of deconstructive art and futurist art, and so, but not necessarily to the art that futures or deconstructive artists produce. Some of it, I try not to be so critical. I'm critical of the philosophy that undergirds it. I'm less critical of the work that's sometimes being done, although I can be very critical, and less critical still of those wonderful people who, some of them are people. They're producing. They're doing their things. Jericho, I understand, he was trained, who really feels at one with the philosophy of postmodernism to ever change to the bright side as opposed to the dark side. But you know what? They're people, and I support them in what they're doing. But the philosophy is so antithetical to my personality. I hope I never come around to it.
But see, the amazing thing about that, and it's absolutely, Jacob, that's why, starting with it, it's a really huge upload to what you pulled. Because it's one of there are few ways of, once you start, when you face the beast of establishment. And I'm coming up from Soviet Union. So I'm coming from that perspective. I know what it is to dealing with that. And to take the route that you take to build this alternative universe, and that's what this huge applause and the huge, enormous thing. And for those people who sustain in the darkest hour, when they had absolutely unchallenged power, those who carried the torch through those times, they will go down in history. They will be remembered for that, because otherwise we would have lost the knowledge transfer. We preserve the knowledge transfer. But now the time is amazing. We live in an absolutely amazing time. When we live in a time of a grand shift again. When what seemed to be impossible now is reality. It's not only possible, there's no shot it out of my mind. It's not because it's a wishful thinking. It was wishful thinking on my part, and we'll go back quite a bit. It might have been 25 years ago, might have been, I'm a second generation of wishful thinker, let's say because of my dad. But we see it happening in front of our eyes. One of the great quotes, that we just got, just Jeremy was right there to second, because I wouldn't believe that I'm hearing that in my private conversation with Vern Simpson, who is an enormously intelligent person. I gained such a huge level of respect.
Alexey, save that quote for the last question.
Which one?
Bennett Simpson quote?
Yeah, no, the second Bennett system, the whole thing is going down. He said, oh my God, the whole thing is going down and you enjoy it? And I said, oh yeah. So we're enjoying that fact. So what my really important thing to say here, that the revolutionary aspect of what we do is not the fact that just like they did in their turn of events at the turn of the last century, when it's written, when they really, it's time for the bullets to hit the walls of museums. That's Mayakovsky. That was the entire tenor of modernism of 1918, 1914, 15. We're not coming from that. The real revolutionary aspect of what we do, we say, no. The entire game has changed. The entire precedent upon which art world always functions, that there is one solid, one and only true brand type of accepted official art of today, whatever it is. Whatever, classicism, academism, modernism, that doesn't exist anymore. We see democratization of cultural play, which is the entirely new cultural and historically. That's where our revolutionary aspect is. The entire system is functioning now a different way. There are different aesthetics. We might completely reject deconstructionist aesthetic. I think it's old. I think it's passé. That's what I think. But it's valid. It's definitely has a merit. It's staying. And now we see basically competition of independent systems. And to realization of that, it will take almost journalistic objectivity to see, oh my God, that's where a really revolutionary aspect of shift, profound cultural shift that happens. We're not going to take their route because we know it's a dead end. We're not aiming to take control the way they did in any turn of events, even seeing that the whole thing goes down. If the thing goes down, we'll be the first one to help them collect the pieces because it's a part of a new landscape. They're massive, they're mountain ranges. They always thought that there is one Mount Parnassus and there is one Mount Everest. And everybody claiming to put that flag on that Mount Everest. We don't. We build our own Mount Everest. In every stroke, in every painting that we do, we build that Mount Everest. But
Right.
it has to be recognized.
Well, and I want to say,
Okay.
I totally agree with that. There is no longer an intellectual apparatus pumping up the art world. It doesn't exist. It has been democratized, and that's the reason why the capitalist marketplace has taken over, because that's the capitalist system. It's the free market. It's kind of libertarian system. That can have its benefits. It can also have its downside.
True.
And I think it's whoever is the biggest fish wins.
That's
you
right.
know?
Yeah.
So the question is, what are the strategies?
I was
Let's get some food. Let's throw some
Right,
food.
what are
I
the-
would dispute though, because I don't see the modern art, whatever it is that whole thing is, has never operated as an autonomous marketplace. It's always been, it's not as if it was ever some sort of bottom-up system. It was always operating with a huge amount of influence from and sponsorship from the beginning. Especially as the Americans got with, Alfred Barr's bosses were the Rockefellers and the Goodyears, and they were, replacing the heads of all the art schools all over the country in those years. And
It's very centralized. Of course.
I think that was done out of the etiquette I described, the sense of etiquette,
Right.
a kind of political etiquette.
But the residual
But I don't
effect
think they were
is
doing
still
it to
there.
horse trade the work.
Sorry?
I don't think they were doing it to horse trade the work, the way you see collectors behave now.
Okay, now, this morning I was at Sotheby's auction in New York, at the 19th century auction, and I would imagine that nearly everybody here has a certain affinity for the other 19th century, right? The classical and the Raphaelites and salon artist, the academic painter.
That's what our show.
Because it's a rejected century. The whole
Censored
theory
out.
has been